What's up guys, Jay here, and I am back. Finally, I am back home, I am back doing a normal schedule, and I am here to give you guys a big update as to what was going on. And based on the title of the video, you can probably ascertain that reason, and that is because I have recently moved. Me and my lovely wife have gotten our own place recently. We have moved homes, moved states, moved locations, and it has been a very interesting time to say the least. And I'm sure anybody who has moved can attest. When we got here, we had nothing, and we had to get a whole bunch of stuff that we didn't even realize we needed to get. Just as we were starting to get settled in, we had to go back to where we were before because we needed to dog sit for a week, which is why last week I did those couple live streams back to back. That was just sort of me hanging out in a very ramshackle setup, and I want to thank everybody who was sticking around and watching those, even though they weren't quite the best streams that I had always had. And I just want to say I appreciate your guys' support and the ever constant growing of the channel, even though I was gone for a good amount of time. I want to say thank you guys so much. And I'm sure you guys have questions, and yes, the title of the video is not clickbait. I did kind of move to gigantic rocks. Where I lived at before was on the East Coast of the US. I lived in a very coastal, beachy, tropical, summertimey area that was very seasonal. Summer was big there. It was very hot, very humid, and I didn't like it that much. And now we have moved much farther inland to a, obviously I'm not going to say exactly where, but to a more mountainous, more rocky mining location, essentially mining type area towards the mountainous types areas. And it has been a big change. It's been a very big adaptation time for the both of us, especially for our little girl Maggie, who is the cat that you have probably seen wander in and out of frame a couple of times. It has been quite a journey. I never really thought that I would be able to have my own place like this at some point in time, but it is coming together and we are making do with what it is. And I wanted to say again, thank you guys for your support and constant watching and loyalty to the channel, even though I've been gone for a little while. It has definitely been a process to go through all this kind of stuff, getting all the things that you need, having a whole entire place that you need to furnish and accommodate, get a whole bunch of stuff. There's a lot of things that we needed to get that I never even realized that I would need, but it's certainly a process. But that's only one of the things I wanted to talk about today, and I wanted to do something else very special, which is finally start answering some of your questions. About a month ago, roughly, at this point, we reached 5,000 subscribers, which again, thank you guys so much. And to celebrate, I put up a special post that I basically said I wanted you guys to ask me any questions that you wanted, and I would answer them in a special video, and that is what this video is. Now, not too many people answered, but enough people did to where I feel like I can put together something for this, and also a lot of people ask questions that I feel like a lot of different people want to ask. So I feel like this is going to be very good for a lot of people, even if you did not ask your question. So we're going to go through all the questions that people have asked me, and I'll give my thoughts on it when we hit 10K, 15K, 100K, which I know we're going to get to because you guys are fantastic. Well, we might do this again, and I might do a couple more questionnaires, a couple more Q&As, and I always answer questions. So with that said, let's go through and see what we have. Will you do content on other games? If so, which ones? So this is a question that a lot of people have been asking me for a while, is if I want to branch out and do other types of games, and the answer is yes, I do want to do content for other games. The problem is that with how YouTube works is when you're just starting off and you're still a young channel, it's kind of not super recommended that you branch out too quickly. This is kind of like a YouTuber behind the scenes. If you find a niche that works for you, you kind of want to stick with that and stick with how it's working, because if it's working, don't fix it. And especially once you start to get a bit of a fan base, people start to expect certain things from your channel. And once you start divulging away from that, then people start to sort of look differently at your channel, kind of with that, this isn't what I started watching you for. Case in point, I did do one episode of an Elden Ring Nuzlocke a while ago, which I do want to continue with. I did have a lot of fun doing that, and I do want to go through more of it, but it is currently still sitting at one of the least viewed videos on my channel. So if it's not going to be a positive feedback, there's not really much of a reason for me to continue going on with it. If people want to see it, I'd be more than willing to do it, but right now people are not showing interest in that kind of content, which is why I did one episode of it. It hasn't come back since because it did not perform very well. Even the stream highlights, which I wanted to do, they fell off very quickly and they were not really doing a whole lot for me. But there are other games that I definitely do want to cover, mainly more cooperative, fun, casual, party-based games. There's a game that came out recently in early access called Void Crew, which I really want to do content on, and I really like playing it and I want to play a lot more of it. It's mainly that kind of content that I want to stick with. But as I said before, it's important for you to stick with content that people are expecting from you, at least for a little while. That way you have the ability to branch out and do those kinds of things sooner. But there are definitely other games that I do want to cover. Yes, absolutely. I want to do content on Void Crew, like I said before. I want to do things like Sea of Thieves. Some of the games I mentioned in my games like Deep Rock Galactic, I would not mind going through and giving my opinions on, giving some guides and stuff like that. A lot of that's probably not going to come around for a while unless I feel it's appropriate, but absolutely I will try to do content for other games in the future. What the is Rockin' Stone? For real, what is your go-to game except DRG? So that first question, how dare you? I'm not even going to humor that with a response. You should know what Rockin' Stone is, and if you do not, you are in the wrong place. As for the second part of that question, what is my go-to game except DRG? That kind of changes on the week. I kind of have this weird habit where I just sort of no-life games for certain weeks at a time, and then I don't do that again for another couple of weeks, and then I kind of just cycle through a couple different games. There are a couple of games that I do like to play, regardless of really what's going on. I'm probably going to out myself a lot for this, and I know a lot of people are probably not going to like this, but I am a big fan of Destiny 2.
Excuse me, what?
I know everybody's grabbing their pitchforks right now, but I know it's not the perfect game. I know it's not the best business speaking, but I just love the gameplay. I love the overall feel, the overall thematics about it. It's just a fun game in my personal opinion to play. I've never missed a season for a while. Well, not never, but I haven't missed a season for a very long time. I play regularly, at least a couple times a week. And then outside of that, it's kind of just depends on what's going through my social group at the time. Like right now we're playing a bunch of Dead by Daylight, and I have kind of forgotten how much I did enjoy playing that game, even though it's, again, not very balanced and not super fun for a lot of people, but I've been enjoying getting back into it. And obviously I've been playing things like Starfield like crazy. Again, Void Crew, I've been playing a lot of that. It kind of depends on what is out, essentially, but it also just kind of depends on what mood I'm in. I don't necessarily have a go-to game that I like to play all the time, but it's just more of a case of, oh, what do I feel like playing today? Like, do I feel like playing a Souls-like game like Elden Ring? It really does kind of depend on my mood. But in terms of go-tos, I guess I would have to say Destiny 2 is probably the most go-to game that I have, which I know definitely outs me a lot. But if anybody wants to see content on that, I'd be willing to, but I highly doubt that's the case for a lot of people. What genre of music do you listen to, and what's your favorite band or artist? Rockin' Stone, brother. Rockin' Stone to yourself as well, brother. See, this is another thing where like it changes every day. It changes throughout the week, it changes throughout the month, it changes throughout the hour. I have this strange habit of just sort of tunnel visioning, obsessing about a particular song or artist or group for a extended period of time. And that is kind of my sense in music. I don't really have a particular favorite. The only types of music I don't really like to listen to are that like super party dubstep techno stuff. I'm not crazy about that. Mumble rap, I'm not crazy about. Pure raw country, I'm not okay with. I like things like alternative or classical stuff. And to give you a bit of a understanding of what my music taste is like, right now I am totally obsessed and want to listen to basically everything by this artist I discovered on Spotify named Dennis Van Arison. Obviously, this has nothing to do with him, but I discovered his music not too long ago, and I have been super addicted to listening to his stuff. He does a lot of like swing music, like Frank Sinatra style stuff, in kind of a more like modern upbeat sort of way. And that is basically my addiction for this month in terms of music. Last month I was addicted to a guy called Dan Bask. If anybody's ever heard him, he is a cover artist who is a phenomenal singer, but it really depends on what my mood is and what I'm feeling. I don't really have a particular go-to that I like to listen to on a regular. Again, it's kind of one of those things where every week I have a new obsession, a new style, a new artist, a new band that I focus on. And then come 2 or 3 weeks later, I forget about them, and then I come back to them again like 4 months later. So hope that answered that question. I know that was a very roundabout way to basically say I don't have one, but that's kind of how it is for me. Do you think that Usopp was justified in Water 7? Like, seriously, be honest. Like, come on. Like, for real. I'm assuming he's talking about One Piece, which I am a fan of One Piece if anybody's ever seen that. If you don't know what One Piece is, you have absolutely no idea what this question means. So I'm not going to go too much into detail of exactly what it is. But for those of you who do know what he is referring to with this question, My answer is yes, and I will not apologize for it. That was simple. On to the next one, I guess. How did you get into DRG? So this is an interesting story. So I was not actually the one who discovered DRG for me. It was actually one of my buddies, Vatros, who you have seen show up in my streams every now and then. He was the one who first showed me this game. He showed it to me on Game Pass and we played it for a little bit. And honestly, we only played it for a little bit and I didn't really play a whole lot afterwards. It was when it was in early access before any seasonal content came out. I forget exactly what update was live when we started playing, but it wasn't anything seasonal. Seasons weren't even a thing yet. And I really liked the idea straight from the get-go. It's just between everything else that came out at the time, I didn't really have much time for it. It wasn't until much later, until I think it was right before season 1, that I got back into it and really fell in love and discovered what it was like to play this game. So that's how I got into it. I didn't really realize how much I enjoyed it until I started playing it for a while. It wasn't until probably around season 2 that I found out that I really, really enjoyed it. And then by season 3, it was a done deal and I knew I loved the game, hence why I started making content for it at the time. But yeah, when I first got into the game, I didn't really think of it much more than just a cool co-op game. I think what helped out a lot with that is just seeing how competitive and PvP focused a lot of the gaming industry developed since the game's initial release. And the fact that it stands still to this day overwhelmingly positive on the Steam page and pretty much a 10 out of 10 on any other review page. And the fact that there's no PvP and no competition based aspect to it in any way, shape, or form, to me is just incredibly impressive. And also it just fills a particular niche that I like playing. I prefer co-op games over competitive games any day of the week. I like games where I can play with my buddies. I like class-based games and all that kind of stuff. So all of those check boxes it just marks. And once I realized it had all that stuff and once I saw how it evolved, I was hooked straight from the beginning, but it did not start like that. You should do a Mythbusters video, looking at popular myths, rumors, and seeing if they are true. Like, does depositing more Aquark make the mission more difficult? Or do you have to deposit your minerals in your pockets for them to count for your final mineral count at the end of a mission? It does, just not mission related. So correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm going to look this up right now actually to make sure I'm telling you the truth, but I believe on the wiki there is actually a page specifically for myths and rumors that people have. Yeah, the common misconceptions page has a lot of things that people think are true or false in the game, and they actually have written out false or true and sightings from the developers saying that they are true or that they are not true. So in essence, that already kind of exists, and I would just sort of be reiterating information. But I mean, I suppose I could do that if there are ones that are not so black and white. I would just have to look up those ones, but that is pretty much that is a good idea. I do like that. It might be something I do in the future, but as of right now, I have a list of video ideas that I want to do, and I still have a lot to get through before I can get caught up. So I have one last question. This one wasn't on the post itself. It was on the video I made recently talking about Oktoberfest. And the question is simply, why wasn't it called Rocktoberfest? And that is a perfectly valid question. And I think Ghost Ship definitely dropped the ball with not calling it Rocktoberfest. I think that would have been significantly more impactful and would have just fit so much more. So, but that's just one I kind of wanted to add in there. So that's all the questions that I had listed right now. I'm sure people had more questions. There's always questions that people have been asking me throughout streams, like what's my favorite class? The answer is engineer. What do I think the best weapon in the game is? It's kind of hard for me to say, although technically every weapon is the best weapon if you've been watching my series on that. And what my thoughts are on season 4 at this point. I have a whole video planned out for that to come out to give my whole synopsis on what I think season 4 has been a couple months down the line. But I just wanted to give you guys an update, tell you that things are gonna finally get back to normal, and I'll finally get back into a normal swing of things. And I have big plans for new stuff to come out to the channel and new things to expand and new series to start, new ways to do videos. And I really hope you guys stick around. I want to say thank you guys for sticking around. This has been phenomenal to have a community like this. I'm shocked that even 5,000 people want to watch any of the stuff that I say, but the fact that we're creeping in on 6,000 and beyond is just absolutely incredible. And I cannot thank you guys enough for this. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like because it tells me what types of videos you guys want to see. Thank you guys for everything that you've done for me. Thank you guys for all the support. And as always, I will see you next time for another video.